What's going on, guys? Back with another episode of Digital Deep Dive. This time I'm sitting down with my latest rival, the American Psycho JL Spiker. We talk about his early beginnings and introduction into the independent wrestling scene, what made him a fan of professional wrestling, and our feud. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go right into it. So hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Digital Deep Dive, where I get to sit down with my absolute best friends I've made through professional wrestling, and I'm here with someone you probably never expected me to be interviewing or discussing wrestling with, and it's JL Spiker, who I'm very happy to sit down with. How's it going, man?
Going good. Glad to be on. Thank you for inviting me.
No, for sure.
It's gonna be a good talk, I feel.
I think so too. Man, there's so much to get into right away. Let's start with how you got into wrestling on the local scene.
Like actually wrestling, or the product itself?
Were you coming to PCW shows before you started wrestling, or other shows?
I went to I think it was one of the February shows. It was Kenny was there. The one match I remember, it was you versus Beaver in I think it was a false count anywhere match, the one with the swirly and all the fun stuff.
Okay, right.
The one moment I remember from that show and kind of just stuck with me was you did the senton off where we have the slot machines up at the back and right onto the table.
And I landed on my feet after hitting it,
right?
Yeah. I totally remember that.
Cool, local wrestling is alive and strong in Winnipeg. And it's like a walking distance from where I was living at the time. And I'm like, PCW, I'm going to start checking it out.
That's awesome. So then you started training. Your training situation, you were in the garage, right? I'm pretty sure I know where you were.
Yeah, I was in the garage, just me, and it was Easy Run Trent Nash, just kind of doing our own thing, training me up. It probably would have been nice a couple more guys were there on the same level as me, but we were getting there and we got it done. I got in the ring and here I am.
You're being generous calling that a ring. It's I mean, to describe it to people watching that don't understand, wrestling rings are 3-4 feet off the ground. This thing is half a foot off the ground. There's no give whatsoever. It's a training boxing ring.
Yeah.
It's hard as heck. It sucks bumping on, and you've got to learn. That's your intro to wrestling, is just basically bumping on wood. That's it. Yeah. There's no spring. There's no give.
No, it was 2x4s, and we try to tighten around the outside of the ring to give it some give. I had no issues with it. I hear a lot of guys had issues, but I'm like, cool, this is going to be wrestling. And then
we've actually done shows with that ring. I remember there was a couple of them. It's you definitely, if you've been around long enough, you'll learn how to count your bumps. And I remember we were all doing it that night for sure. So yeah, you got in, you did the training in this guy's garage. Basically, it's this little 10x10 ring. You were just the only trainee. How did you find the training experience? Was it kind of what you signed up for, or were you kind of blown away a little bit by things?
Yeah, it was what I expected. I at that point in my life, I was just kind of looking for. In high school, I played every single sport under the sun. So moving down from up north in rural Manitoba, I'm sure you know how it is being out in Somerset. And it's cool. I don't know where all the rec league sports are. Don't know where that is. And kind of always in the back of my mind, I want to wrestle one day. Just have one match. That's all I need. So having that structure in the form of, okay, we're running drills, we're doing this. It was much needed at that point in my life.
Okay, right on. So yeah, you were on a bunch of sports teams and things. I never knew that about you. I could figure you're more built than most guys that come into wrestling. You had some size on you. So you coming in looked like a professional wrestler, which, it's something I wasn't gifted with very early on. But so where did the wrestling fandom start?
It was me and my dad. Every time my mom was out of town, Raw's on, let's watch it. Some of the first matches I watched, it was the Hurricane and Rock when they were going at it on Raw. That was the first Raw I ever watched.
This blows. How old are you? How
I just turned 26 in February, so.
what the fact that I'm almost 10 years older than you totally blows my mind too. I don't know if it's just that I'm young at heart. Like I love people that love wrestling though and are excited about it. So like you starting at that point, just it's like I've got like a whole lifetime of wrestling memories before that. Yeah. That's awesome. So like who were your favorites that you grew up then watching, or like was there anybody that jumped like I want to be like that guy?
It was kind of like once or twice a year we would watch Raw, so I didn't really start hardcore until probably when John Cena and Batista in like the 2005 era started rolling around. So like both of them, Batista and John Cena, like I want to be these big strong guys, bigger than life, and
right on.
Yeah.
I like that. So you start in PCW. JL Spiker is the name. It never deviated from that. Is there a reason for the name, or just
it was I was in a midterm. I was going to university, and I had midterm, and my phone starts ringing in the middle of an exam. I'm like, why is my phone ringing? Who's calling me? Look down, it was my trainer. I'm like, okay, cool. Finished my midterm, go out, and I had a presentation 15 minutes later. He's like, you're wrestling Saturday. Okay, we need a name. I'm like, well, I really like part of your last name, Spiker. I'm like, okay, we'll just use your first two initials. I'm like, okay, I don't have this name thought out in my head. Guess we're going with JL Spiker.
Did you have any like ideas in your head going like, you dream of being a wrestler? Did you have like a persona and a name and a gimmick like all kind of fleshed out?
No, it was just kind of I'm just going to go out there and try to be the athlete I felt like I was, and just prove it with my actions more than this character behind me, because I was never really the grandeur and everything. I'm more of the sports side of things.
That's so fascinating, because like I'm totally on the opposite spectrum of that. I never grew up with sports, and I just had these character ideas and all these names and things, and then I still got slapped with a silly name like Jay Walker in the end. But you make it work, right?
Yeah.
So you start out. There goes my light. That's okay. So you start out wrestling mostly tag matches, if I remember right.
Yeah. It was. I think I had a singles match against Moses Luke on the 15th anniversary show. That was right. One hell of a debut. I think
welcome to the business.
Yeah, welcome to the business. Packed crowd. There was standing room only, and I'm like, green as grass.
No idea what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Here we go. This is it.
We'll go 3 minutes. I'm going to get squashed, whatever. And after that, me and him teamed up and started doing tag matches. I think I bounced around. My first 2 years of wrestling, I think I had 10 different partners.
I remember that. They were just kind of throwing you in there to get some experience for sure.
Yeah.
How did you find those first 2 years then? Like, what were some of the biggest takeaways?
Just kind of paying my dues with all those chops. Like just remember walking out every night and just looking at my chest and like, oh, okay. One of these days, I'm sure this will stop. But it was that exposure and finding myself in front of a crowd, because I was always rely on my athletics and coordination and stuff. And it's like, cool, I have to play to the crowd and actually work the room instead of working my opponent.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, you really got in there with a bunch of old school guys. That's where a lot of that chopping comes into play.
Yeah.
So the promoter, Andrew Shawcross, has an idea. And he's had this idea for quite a few years. We've talked about it plenty of times on car trips and stuff. I've always heard about this idea of having an American on the roster. And for some reason, you get pegged as the guy. How did he pitch that to you? What did you think of it? I want to hear some of the story on your end of it.
The way he first pitched it, it might have just been me interpreting it wrong, but it sounded like he was like, okay, cool, you're gonna hate Canada and kind of do like this almost CM Punk straight edge, I'm better than you gimmick. And I'm like, I don't know if I can pull that off in that form. And
you get a whole lot of promo time either, really. Like
like it was. I'm the guy in the corner. I'm taking the tag, taking the heat, and taking the pin. So, okay, cool. So I'm going to have to start thinking of how I'm going to cut promos, how I'm going to do this. And I remember it was pitched to me the day of a Kenny show, and I went out there and just had the worst promo ever. I'm like, I'm going to be better than Kenny Omega, everyone. And it was like, no, this is no. But it took a couple discussions, and eventually I'm like, cool, we'll do this kind of at the start, more political, support Trump, kind of let's build the wall, like almost satire in a way, which I'm like,
Right.
okay, I can get behind political satire. That's kind of, I find humor in that. So let's take some of those aspects. And I'm like, it was really kind of looking at old school wrestling and like the old Dusty Rhodes kind of everyman promos. And okay, cool. So let's kind of mix it the way I want to take it into the future is Hard Times Dusty Rhodes mixes with Sergeant Slaughter when he turned his back on the U.S.
Okay.
Kind of this invading heel, but he's doing it for his people back home.
I love that you're studying, and this character took off. Like, you had no momentum whatsoever with the audience. They didn't respect you at all.
No.
It's a tough crowd to win over, absolutely. And when you're just kind of thrown randomly in tag matches, it can be really hard to find that connection with the people. As soon as this gimmick got tacked onto you, you fully committed to this thing, unlike anybody I've ever seen locally commit to a look and a gimmick before. And it blew me away, the night and day change of like where you started and where you were. I remember you sort of had like the camo Minecraft pants. You were kind of doing the tag team thing, but when you switched to the American singlet and you got the flag, you got the Make America Great Again hat, you had the aviators with the American flag on them. It was a full-blown gimmick change, and it got over, I felt like, in a heartbeat. I don't know if it felt like that to you at all or what was going on in your head, but it was amazing. Your commitment to it just absolutely blew me away.
Yeah, like it was. I don't know if it was the first time out there, but there was definitely points along the way where I'm like, I'm starting to hear these boos, and they didn't feel like we're wasting our money on a ticket sort of boos. It's we hate you boos. Like there's the match where me and O'Doyle won the tag title. Someone hit me with their cup, Red Solo cup of beer, and I'm
Right
like,
on.
I know we're going over, and so I'm like sitting in the corner getting worked and trying not to break character and just smile at it. I'm like, cool, like I'm doing my job as the bad guy in the ring right now.
Absolutely, you picked that up so well. Man, so what are some of the other highlights like of the gimmick so far?
It's having this playground just to play and create and try to figure it out. Like I've been kind of stepping away from wrestling over the pandemic, and I'm like, okay, I don't know where this character can be right now. Like it's a struggle some days, but it's also it's fun where I'm like, cool, what can I bring next? Because we can't stay in this political realm all the time. We should expand it and try to evolve with the times.
Right. What's funny is a fan actually visited me the other day, and the first question they asked me was, "What's JL Spiker going to be doing when he gets back?" Because there's no way he can do the gimmick that he's been doing. I just dropped my light again there. That's okay. We're live now. But I've got some ideas, and I'm sure once things get back rolling, there's going to be plenty of ideas. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So once you get this gimmick, all of a sudden you start seeing some success. You guys are picking up wins. You picked up the tag team titles just one time, or are you guys two-time? Or
We're one time, yeah.
One time. Okay. And I see it in the background. You've got my golden ticket. How does that feel to go from just kind of a guy thrown on the card to actually being a featured performer? It's on posters and has match graphics and promos and
the kid inside of me was jumping up and down for joy, and I'm like, oh, I made it, I'm on a poster. And like, if I ever win the world title, sure, that'd be nice, but like I'm happy working the second match on the card with this character. But like it's wow. It's hard to describe that feeling of, okay, cool, now in a way I took business in university. It's the company putting faith in you as a product. Now you got to perform. Like instead, I couldn't just hide in the tag team. Okay, cool. Everyone knows I'm going to get pinned. Now I'm like, I have to go out there and make sure part of that ticket money's going towards seeing me.
That's awesome that you look at it that way. That's the same way. Like, they talk about titles just being props kind of on the show, but no, it is a promoter's faith in you to be able to represent the company in a way, whether it's old fans returning or these new eyes. You set the bar and you set the example for the roster in a way of how to carry yourself in the ring and out. And you've been nailing it with everything. I've been loving it. We've had our little feud over the Canadian title, which people were watching it on Twitter and YouTube. They were excited about it. It was a program they could sink their teeth into. I was excited to work with you because, and I'm going to say this right now, you're just one of the best guys. You're always one of the first ones there, helping with the ring setup and the teardown. You got in there like a dirty shirt. You help make the show so much. I know from years of being one of the only guys on Ring Crew how important that is, and I made sure that the right people took notice from your efforts, and I was always putting you over every single show. This Spiker kid is always putting in the work. Give him something as soon as he got something. Like he's a valued member of the team. He's important to have here, and I'm glad to see that it's paying off for you.
Yeah, I appreciate you putting in those kind words. Like, yeah, that was one of the things. Like, there was a few shows where it was just me and you setting up the ring, and I'm like, as much as that hierarchy of everyone paid their dues and did the ring at some point, I'm like, I'm okay if I'm at 35 still putting up the ring, or 40 or 45, because like at the end of the day, as a worker, you're supposed to protect the other guy in the ring, and why not start with the ring itself? Right.
Absolutely. And so yeah, let's dive into the rivalry a little bit. You beat me for the golden ticket. Is that how that started in the Rumble?
Yes, we can talk about the two throwaway matches we had prior to that, where I was still this white meat greenhorn babyface, but yeah, it was me and you were the final two, and I threw you out for the golden ticket.
There were matches before you were the American. I don't remember that.
There was a mix or a 6-man tag at a Canada Day show, and the following Canada Day show was a 3-way.
Okay, right. Yes, as a 3-way I do remember with David. I think I have that somewhere. I could be wrong, but let's talk about the first match at Oak Bluff.
Yes.
It's me and you, one-on-one. You're usually in tag matches. Now you're competing for the Canadian title, and we've got to go 15 to 20 minutes. How different was that for you?
It was, at the time, I don't think I was conditioned for a singles run at the time. It was one of those things where I'm like, cool, I'm in here 3 minutes. Where's my tag to get out? But I'm like, kind of having this being the heel, I was like, cool, I could slow down the match and have a little bit of confidence at that point of I could slow it down a bit, and it's a smaller room, so we don't have to do a best of the Super Juniors match. We can keep it to our pace.
Right on. I love having total control over my matches creatively, like just move for move, especially with like newer talent like you. I've done it several times before with other guys. I understand the other side, like where you guys are coming from. So I intentionally try to pace the match properly, but also give you a blueprint psychology-wise of how to structure your matches. Did you get that sense at all? Looking back, yeah. What are some of the big things you picked up on? Is there anything that stands out as far as the psychology, or as far as how things are put together, or working the crowd, or whatever it was?
I think some of the biggest takeaways was kind of learning to be a heel a bit more. Like I was the white meat baby face trying to get over, would never get over in front of that PCW crowd, and just kind of, okay, slow it down, play to the crowd, do moves instead of flashy stuff, big, over the top, kind of slow, methodical, and just learning to control. That was right. Like I had one singles match that I absolutely failed trying to be the heel, and it was way too early. Didn't know what I was doing as a heel, and it was absolutely terrible. I'm sure people probably at that time called for me to quit the business, but it was just kind of, I don't know, on a personal level, it's okay, cool. Now I can see my growth as this. I've started here. Now I'm working my way up with these skills up to here, and it was fun, and just kind of you giving me ideas of, oh, let's do this with the gimmick. I'm like, cool. I never thought of that. Like, to me, I'm like, I'll try to incorporate like a Kurt Angle move or a Jack Swagger move, trying to do all these. Well, he kind of had the same gimmick at one point. Let me throw a bone to them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
You definitely did very good for that scenario in that match. I remember your pacing was great. It was pretty on point. People don't realize how different it is to work as a baby face versus a heel. The heel does control that pace. They control the audience's emotions, and they also kind of control the baby face a little bit. I thought you did really well, and I'm not sure if I even mentioned it to you, but after the match, Andrew, our promoter, came up and just had like the biggest item, was like, that is the best JL Spiker match I have seen. We're going to do a lot more of that. So you did great that night. And then, of course, we had our rematch because you stole my title. We did a little vignette backstage where you chokeslammed me on some steel stairs or whatever it was outside.
Yeah.
And so we booked the rematch at the Back to School Bash. How was that match for you? Because we're in front of the PCW regulars. It is that, as you said, best of the Super Juniors kind of pace at the beginning. How did that one go in your mind? Do you remember a lot of it?
Yeah, it was one of the key takeaways. We had the rookie ref, which I'm sure didn't help us, but it was knowing we had this match at Oak Bluff that, okay, cool, we're building on that and kind of let's turn it up. Now I feel comfortable in this singles run roll, and let's turn it up, and we're brawling outside the ring and kind of cool. Maybe I'm the brawl outside the ring type of wrestler because I'm having fun out here. And we turned it up, and some of the spots we did in Oak Bluff, we kind of revamped, recycled, and I was looking back, they looked better than the Oak Bluff match. And
absolutely, that's how it works, man.
Yeah, it was a nice, I would like to say, almost the first test of my career of where I started to where I was in that match, and like, cool, I could rest my hat on that as being the start of the American Psycho singles run.
Right on. So your girlfriend goes to the shows regularly. You usually have a decent table of friends as well. What do they think of JL Spiker, the wrestler and the character?
Usually whenever I tell someone, I have to kind of let them know that no, I am not actually going to try to kill someone in the ring tonight. Because a lot of the people I've managed to get out don't understand professional wrestling. They see it as, oh, it's like that UFC stuff. Yes and no. There's more theatrics involved.
Right.
But yeah, like the first time I told people at work, they're like, "Oh my God, you wrestle!" And like next thing you know, I had conversations of like, "Oh man, the early '90s." I'm like, wasn't around, but okay. It was nice seeing just like almost being this nostalgia point for everyone that I was talking to. Of, oh, I used to watch wrestling. Well, I'm going to support you now.
That's awesome. Winnipeg absolutely used to be this like wrestling hotbed in the early 90s. It's a shame that it went away, but I think you can tell too, there's this crazy little subculture for PCW. It's just this different kind of fan that are just so supportive too. Like it's just this big family get together. It's such a unique experience, something you don't get at most other independent shows you go to.
Yeah, like I went to a different independent show before the one with you and Beaver, and it was like cool. It was kind of this family friendly, trying to be this big show, and I'm like, cool. I don't know if this is my type of professional local wrestling. And then you go to PCW, and it feels like it's a bunch of friends on a Friday night getting drunk and watching each other fight.
Beat the holy hell out of each other, right? So we bumped into each other last summer. You came all the way out here to say hello, and that was awesome seeing you. You were talking about kind of taking your mind off of wrestling. Now that we're ramping up, kind of. Now that things are slowly kind of changing in the right direction, what are you looking forward to when we can get back to PCW?
Just getting back in the ring and trying to get some of this ring rust off. Like I like to joke with people at work, just friends and family, and like I'm sure my body's going to hate me that first bump at this point because your body gets used to it after a while. So I'm like I want to get back in that ring, and I've been this over probably the last 6 months or so. Like, oh cool, some plywood fell off a truck at work. Let me put that aside for the ring. And just wanting to get back at it and just seeing everyone like that it's almost a sense of family when you're in that locker room of like you're having a bad day, you walk in that locker room, someone's going to brighten your mood with a joke. Or there was one time I was wearing the shorts and had a little bit of muffin top, and the guy's like, "Who's JL Spiker?" I'm like, "I'm right here." Looks at his tag partner. I didn't know I was wrestling a goddamn gorilla. Like, I'm going to take that as a compliment. Thank you.
I'm glad you've got that mindset. It's funny because some of the guys, I think it's just that wear and tear over the years. You're still fairly new at it, but a lot of the guys, they've asked me, like, are you excited to come back to wrestling? And I was like, hell yeah, man, sign me up. Like, I'll do this forever. It is so fun. And you were mentioning that it kind of feels like family. It's weird because I think it's more because of where we live, but we're not surrounded by wrestling fans that are friends and family. So when you go and you have those people that share that same common interest, it perks you up a little bit. You know, you're excited, you feel rejuvenated a little bit in your excitement for everything. You're not living in your own little contained bubble of fandom. So yeah, to be able to get out with the guys, and that's probably the thing I am looking most forward to. I mean, a video chat is great to catch up, but being in person is totally different. Being in the ring is even more different. I am super excited. One day, I'm sure we're going to cross paths again, and I'll look forward. I will. I'll whip you into shape. We'll get that ring rust off you, and make sure that you have the absolute best match on your comeback because you deserve it. Your energy at the shows, from like I said, when we get there at 3 p.m. and what you're taking down that ring at 2 a.m., it's always up. You're always just excited to be there, and you're such a big member of the team that a lot of the fans don't even get to see. But like, really, you are like this new life coming into PCW, and it's awesome to have you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, there was a stretch where I was working the 4 a.m. shift at work on the Sundays, and I'm like, do I need wrestling in my life? Yes, I do. I will sleep on the couch for an hour and go to work. But yeah, it was
awesome. Man, like when it used to like just be me and like another guy or two for ring crew, there were some nights where I would get up at 6 a.m., go to work in an office, leave work a little bit early, drive 2 hours, set up the ring with me and one other guy for hours, get the ring up just in time for the show at 9 p.m., do the show, tear down the ring, store the ring, and drive 2 hours back home. I'd be at home at like 6 o'clock in the morning just to get an hour or two of sleep and do it all over again. But I mean, if you love it, you love it, and you clearly do. And like I said, you're just getting started too. Like, you're still young, you still got years to put in, and you're only going to get better. And especially like working these singles matches, and you've got this great character to now evolve and progress that much more. It's going to be really exciting where you are in a couple of years.
Probably still not losing by pinfall to Jay Walker. I can tell you that much.
I love it. Let's do it. I'm excited, man. Oh man, I had the cinematic match planned, and me and you were kind of talking when things were open last summer of making it happen. Just schedules didn't work out, and then things kind of locked down again. I had this epic cinematic match that we were gonna do outdoors. I just had this vision of like you driving down a dusty road with a truck and some like big rock American music playing, and then you show up and we see the Aviator. I had so many ideas, and it's a shame we never got to do it because it would have been so much fun.
I'm sure. Yeah, maybe this year once things calm down a little bit with COVID, and
it'd be nice just to get a little taste for fans before we hop back into a show. We might have to because man, it was going to be pretty fun.
I was looking forward to that. Just having that little bit of, it was almost like cinematic matches in my mind played to my style of, cool, I don't have to be flashy. I could play to the camera and be this brawler outside the ring doing what I want to do most.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, it was fun catching up. I think that's all the time I got. I'm going to plug your socials in the bottom, so make sure you send me all the right ones. I see in the business card. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was apparently there's jail spikers out there. Never knew that. But
yeah,
so.
I would think. Even I've got to compete. Jay Walker, do you think, like, I don't know, that it wouldn't be that big of a name, but there's like a celebrity DJ. There's a Ninjago Lego character called Jay Walker, and he's all in blues. Like, you're just making my job harder, guys. But it was nice talking to you. Hopefully people got to see a little bit more inside of who you are behind the character and as a person, because you're one of my favorites. Legitimately, I will go to bat for you 100% of the time in pro wrestling. And I hope that when things do get back to normal, we see that success keep going upwards, because I want a rematch with you, damn it.
Yeah, as long as you're still at PCW. Like I was rooting for you last year, hoping you got on that spring break card, but COVID happened.
He was in the DMs. Let's say that we were talking. It was gonna happen, and it sucks that it didn't. But I just gotta grind at it and find a different way to get some exposure. Is what it is. I'm not gonna cry about it anymore.
Yeah, maybe we'll hook up a camera for a Twitch stream of the next PCW show. Get some more exposure.
I'm trying. Good idea. Anyways, we'll see you next time. I appreciate it. We'll get you back on here one day and maybe get some questions from some people. Make it a whole lot of fun.
I am open to any questions as long as they're PG-ish.
All right. Take care. Good to chat.
Thanks.